Do you have anything to say about it at all?
How do you feel about it?
Are they treating you well? How did you get
I think most
involved?
people will want to know this. Will you dance this evening? Do you have any plan? Can you talk to us about it?
Rudolf Nureyev was the outstanding male dancer of his generation. He was exotic, flamboyant, outrageous. One of the most photographed men of the 20th century. The sheer excitement he radiated in performance had audiences swooning the world over. He brought classical ballet center stage.
I don't have to close my eyes to remember Rudolf. Rudolf was so beautiful.
There was such power and passion. I had never in my life seen such a thing.
It was fantastic. It takes your breath away when you saw it.
He was running with strength, like a tiger.
I don't think anybody can hold a candle to me.
He shot to fame the day he defected from the Soviet Union in 1961. But in Russia itself, he was already famous as a brilliant new talent who was breaking taboos in the world of the male dancer.
His whole attitude to dancing was slightly effeminate, sometimes deliberately. But in general he was, of course.
Actually, I'm a romantic kind of dancer.
This film explores those early years with the help of those who knew him and watched him blossom. It includes fascinating footage never seen before of his first performances in Russia. Much of it filmed by a German student with whom Nureyev fell in love. It's a sequence of love stories, especially his affair with Leningrad and the Kirov stage, which the years of exile never overcame. The boy Rudolf began his first affair at the age of 7. As a New Year's Eve treat in 1945, he was taken to see his first ballet in his hometown of Ufa.
Big crowd gathered in front of the doors, and they were all trying to push in.
His mother queued up with Rudolf and his 3 sisters to see a local Bashkirian ballet, The Song of the Cranes. Ufa's leading ballerina of the day remembers hearing how Mrs. Nureyev managed to smuggle them in.
It
was Rudolf's mother and her family, 5 of them altogether. She bought 1 ticket and they all 5 got in on the 1 ticket to watch The Song of the Cranes.
Then suddenly doors gave in and we all found ourselves inside and ran for our life to find place somewhere in the gallery.
Rudolf was captivated by the sight and sound of the Opera House, the most luxurious building he'd ever been in. The velvet and gold, the lights, the huge chandelier in the middle. His lifelong love of the theatre dated from that December night. And then there was the dancing itself.
Rudolf saw it and he said he loved the ballet so much that he could watch it forever. That's all I'm going to do, he said. Dance.
I remember when I came to the kindergarten next morning, there's one room with a crystal chandelier, and I was dancing away. They quickly whisked me out and threw into the garden. That was the destiny, to dance. That's what I'm chosen for.
Rudolf's chosen destiny was not quite what his parents, both loyal communists, had in mind for their only son. He spent his whole childhood in Ufa, the small provincial capital of Bashkiria, 700 miles east of Moscow. The colourful facades of the wooden houses in every street masked the crowded, deprived existence inside. His memories of life in Zentsova Street were far from fond.
It was just one room, 12 square meters, 3 by 4, and no utilities whatsoever. To go to the toilet, you had to go to the street, and I didn't have any shoes, and I had my sister's clothes. Well, we would gather bottles, wash them and sell them back to the shop and things like that, or gather copper, sell old newspapers.
When his father dropped off to sleep after dinner, Rudolf used to slip out for folk dancing sessions. Years later, after his defection, he made a point of going to watch a troupe of Bashkirian folk dancers when they were touring in the West. He first learned to dance at the Children's Social Club in the Pioneer's Palace, not always to the delight of his peers.
He was just an ordinary boy, thin, weak-looking and a bit of a mess. I was very unhappy when they put me to dance with him on my own. I thought it was an insult to dance with a boy. The girls were teasing me.
In Ufa, there were few opportunities for him to spread his wings, but the new Rodina Cinema offered him a window into American culture through Charlie Chaplin and Tarzan films, which had been purloined by Soviet troops at the end of the war.
Those are clothes. Women wear them because they think men are like them.
For Rudolf, the skinny young boy with untidy hair, the flowing locks and fine physique of Johnny Weissmuller perhaps made him a role model. He would also dream of the world beyond during the time he spent perched above the river on his own watching the trains. All his life they held a romantic fascination for him.
The most haunting sound of the city was sound of the train. You could hear it from miles away, beckoning you. I used to stay for hours watching those trains come and go across the river into distance and going all the way to Moscow and Leningrad.
They also symbolized for him a restless, nomadic existence. That was how his life had begun. In 1938, his mother, heavily pregnant with Rudolf, was traveling to join her husband in the Soviet Far East in time for the birth. She didn't quite make it.
I was born on a train on Trans-Siberian Railroad. The trip is very long. It's about 12 days to cross from Moscow to Vladivostok. So I was shaken out of the womb by the Lake Baikal.
As a teenager, Rudolf began his apprenticeship in the Ufa Theatre's Corps de Ballet. By the age of 16, he was performing regularly on the Opera House stage. He'd made his debut there when he was 10, alongside a school friend who played Little Red Riding Hood.
Rudolf comes on stage dressed as a wolf. And I'm terrified. Oh my God, I'm lost in the woods and there's this scary wolf. And he grabs me by the waist and we start turning and dancing and disappear in the wings. That's how I remember our dance.
He was determined to get to the Leningrad Ballet School, which nurtured talent for the famous Kirov Ballet Company. So the shy, skinny boy asked another Ufa dancer who was already at the school to make the necessary introductions.
Everybody said to me, how talented you are. And I said, well, why nothing happens and why I can't get to that wretched school? And finally something clicked in my mind that nobody's going to come and take me by hand and do or show me anything. I had to do it all myself.
We supported his application to go to Leningrad. He was sponsored by the Bashkirian government. So Nureyev, his genius, is entirely ours.
In August 1955, Rudolf Nureyev reached Leningrad to begin his training. It was the start of his second big love affair with Leningrad and the Kirov, which he immersed himself in for the next 5.5 years. He was so keen to get there that by mistake he arrived at the school in Rossi Street a whole week before it opened. In Leningrad, he said, even if a man is sweeping the streets, he sees beauty all around him.
He'd say, will you take a picture of me here, please, so you get my reflection in a puddle? Do you see me in the puddle? I'm Narcissus. Or take a picture of me by this tree. There was no audience. It was just me and him, no one to show off to.
He'd arrived at the school when he was 17.5, a very late starter. He soon realized he had a lot of catching up to do.
Suddenly, Rudy appeared. I will remember his eyes and his face were so open and tense. How much I can sponge when I'm in that building and that period of time in St. Petersburg.
Nureyev set himself a punishing regime of training and rehearsal which governed the rest of his life. It caught on in all the ballet companies he worked with round the world.
Rudy didn't have one moment in a studio when he will be peacefully sitting. He always said, come here, and everyone will practice with him. Because he said, I'm behind, I want to do it better. I didn't have what the other boys have.
The boy Rudolf just never stopped dancing, even in the dormitory. His roommates found there was no escape.
He wanted to lift me because he wanted to practice. He wanted someone who will move. That move, when the girl will do it, I will do that move, and he will partner me. Sometimes I will say, Rudy, I'm tired, and he will pull my blanket off me. Stand up, let's do. You will be the girl, I'm doing pirouette with you. And there to make him mad, you know what I did? I call him Bashkirian pig. And that was the most wild thing what happened. The animal from Rudy was starting. He was chasing me. He wanted to beat me, and we beating each other. And he called me Romanian pig. And I mean, this was the moment you don't forget.